Oh, yeah, we are back. Extra bases. Winter meetings. Whoa, what happened there? What did you just do?
I had to hit the OK button.
Okay. Winter meetings. Wrap up. Jeremy Booth was there along with my colleague, Zach Tawatari. I couldn't be there.
Mm,
I wanted to be there.
mm.
What was your impression of what went down at the winter meetings and what hasn't gone down or didn't go down at the winter meetings?
Um, I think the story of the winter meetings was actually told before they happened. You have a lot of people, a lot of clubs knew their budgets, a lot of clubs were moving fast. The free agency is in a whole totally different stratosphere it's ever been before. Not just because of the Soto deal, because of the breadth of the deals, right? You have teams that are in a little bit upside down in some ways, like the Giants, who still have some room to be competitive and make some ads they need to fill some holes with. And that's a division that's got like the Diamondbacks and the Padres and the Dodgers, going 3-2-1 with the Giants right now sitting in that four hole. So, and you got, stuff like the Astros who are predictably quiet because they're waiting on a certain domino to fall, which could dictate the rest of the clubs, right? So, you start seeing things move and free agency comes to a little bit of a head and you see stuff like um, Boston today, making deals for Garrett Crochet and the White Sox, doing what they should as part of that deal and getting prospects back. So I don't think anybody was doing anything unexpected. I think what was happening though is that all the big free agents, for the most part, came off the board ahead of the meetings because of the money everybody knew they had. That was the story of it. So it was really about who's going to make a trade, what kind of what depth pieces are we looking at, and then who's left to fill the dominoes that kicks everything into gear.
As of 9 o'clock on December 11th, 9 p.m., Alex Bregman still does not have a home. Will it happen by the end of the week? There's a lot of thinking that he is the next domino to fall. It appears from reporting Astros, Yankees, Red Sox are the leaders, and the Tigers have been mentioned as well. Of those four, Jeremy, which ones do you think it will come down to if we had like a final two? I know it doesn't work that way in baseball typically, but if you had to pick a final two, which ones would those be?
Give me the ones you're talking about again. Give me the four teams that you really think that we're narrowing it to. Astros, Tigers,
Red Sox, Yankees. I've
and one
always
more.
felt that the Tigers would be a great fit, and he would be a great fit for them. I mean, I mentioned that months ago, or maybe a month ago.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be the Red Sox. And I think that the relationship with Alex Cora, especially with some of the stuff I heard over the weekend, has a lot to do with it. Um, clearly I listened to Dana talk. I did ask some questions that I told you. I usually, for those of you that don't know, I don't ask any questions. It might be the first ones I've asked in 7, 8 years of doing this.
I was gonna bring it up that I was
Yeah.
gonna bring it up that Jeremy Booth asked questions as a member of the media.
Yeah, I asked Dana 4 or 5 questions, and they were more about depth pieces and pitching and planning, and
We
because
can get
everybody
into
knows
that.
that
Yeah,
everybody knows that Bregman is going to be is what they're waiting on. But
priority number one.
yeah, but when you look at what Jim Crane's history is and what the market's going to be for Alex Bregman, the two don't match. They just don't. It doesn't mean Jim won't go beyond that and break his rule, but they don't match. They just don't. And if you're looking at what other clubs are going to do for somebody like Bregman with his production at second base or third base or whatever, wherever they want to put him, if you're the New York Yankees, for example, conversation that came up offline. If you're the New York Yankees, Bregman goes and plays third, Chisholm goes and plays second, and somebody said, "Well, how the Yankee fans going to react to Alex Bregman with all that's gone on?" And they said the answer was a good one. The answer was they'll hate him until he hits his first walk-off home run, and they're gonna love him. And that's the way it's going to work. It'll work the same way in Boston. It'll work the same way other places. Like when Astros, who were part of the, let's call it the contentious group, right? Because right now, I don't think this team on the field is a contentious group. People may hate them, but I think it's a pretty good group as far as players. Um, some of the issues around the people around the club still may have some character questions, but when it comes to the Astros players themselves, they're a pretty good group. So I think when Alex goes and performs when it's elsewhere, um, I agree. They're going to work, get right up with him. Now, that said, he has an exceptional tie to AJ Hinch and Alex Cora. Looks like the one to Alex Cora is a pretty strong one. It's a pretty good one. And from what I've been able to tell, with the national media and other markets anyway, as well as as our Houston circuit and the people that kind of tie it together. Jason, as you know, we all cross paths every season. Um, Boston seems like the likely destination. I would have held on that wouldn't have been the case until I saw the Crochet deal because Garrett Crochet is a frontline guy. And when you start adding frontline guys and you figure they're going to get Giolito back this year at some point, and you start looking at the just bit by bit fortifying they're doing with that roster, Bregman makes sense. I would have bought him in New York and not taken Boston as seriously until I saw that. So now that they've made some moves that would make sense to add Alex with, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna say Boston. I'm gonna say Boston is where he's gonna end up.
This was interesting. Earlier Wednesday on MLB Network Radio, I believe it was CJ Nitkowski and Spilly. I believe it was those two, their show. The question was posed, everything equal being money, money being equal. Alex Bregman is around 200 career home runs. Alex Bregman, the next 5 years, for him to reach 300 home runs, career home runs, and win a World Series, those two things happening within the next 5 years, which spot is the best one, the best situation for him to accomplish those two things?
So for a right-hand hitter, home runs is going to be Boston, right? I mean, it's the wall. It's short. I've spent more nights in there than I care to admit. I mean, it's going to be something that's a much better right-hand hitting ballpark for the championship. I'm not sold on what the Red Sox are doing, and I'm just going to say it. Craig Breslow has made some very baffling decisions in some areas off the field. Let's say that. Now, when it comes to um, he's not. For last I read, matter of fact, he's not all the way in on Bregman. And it's Cora
Reportedly.
and the other people in the room that really want him, and Breslow's like, I don't know. Okay, so with that mindset, I'm not totally sold that Boston's a place to win rings. Now, um, the Yankees, I think, they just told the planet they got 760 million to spend. Good luck putting that back in your pocket. Okay. When you tell the world you're willing to do that for one guy, you should be willing to do it for four or five, right? And so adding Bregman and adding Freed and adding Christian Walker and adding a couple other pieces there to the mix will help that club get better if they add Alex as well. So to win, and I'm going to clarify because I said Boston earlier. I think if they make the more moves that they make, or they know that's coming, his tie to Cora will win out over his tie over going to New York. But if they don't, then the Yankees are sitting there with open arms with plenty of money to overpay and get him into New York, and that's where the rings are going to be.
Spilly and CJ Nitkowski both thought Houston. My gut reaction was no, Boston is the best place for him to win a championship in the next 5 years and reach 300 home runs. That was as the minute they asked that question and they were going between Houston and Boston, I
Yeah.
said Boston in my head. Boston. Some people on X have posted, and granted it's a small sample size. Some people have posted Alex Bregman's career numbers at Fenway in 21 games. He's hitting 375, 1240 OPS with 9 doubles, 7 homers, 17 walks, 17 Ks in 21 games at Fenway Park. And he performs very well there. And the way he plays the game and the way he approaches the game and how we see him manage the day-to-day life of the game, like, to me, I can see him in a Red Sox uniform. I can see him in a Red Sox uniform. For some reason, the Yankees uniform, I don't know, it just doesn't I can't see that vision, but I
Well,
can picture Alex Bregman in a Red Sox uniform.
when you look at the Boston Red Sox history, you can see guys like Dustin Pedroia,
Yep.
and Bregman's a pretty similar player. right? He's a pretty similar player as far as what you would envision. Matter of fact, that was a lot of guys' comp on him when he was in college and high school would be a Dustin Pedroia. So, he fits. His number isn't retired, number two, if that matters at all. It's not retired in Boston. It is retired, obviously, in New York. There's one number two in New York, and he's a guy named Jeter. So when it comes to, um, what the arrows can point to Boston, like I said, because of Alex and I just think he performs well there, like you said. Obviously, the numbers back it up, and I'm not sold on Breslow and the moves they're making for a championship, but for his offensive performance and what he's going to do, I believe in that ballpark and him in it.
I've never met Craig Breslow. I don't know Craig Breslow. Is it possible that someone like Craig Breslow may, even though he was a player, may undervalue Alex Bregman, the clubhouse guy, and what he means to a team?
Well, I don't think there's any may about it. I just I'm not. If you're in that window in that market and you're trying to win, the guy's a winning player. You got the money to spend. Your roster is porous. It's better than people think, but it's porous. You plug the hole. Devers isn't going to move across. The thing about Bregman is that Devers isn't moving to first base, so there it has to be short or second. I don't see Alex playing short every day, so he's going to have to play second base. They got Trevor Story, who's never healthy. He's a better defensive shortstop. So for Boston, maybe it's they don't believe that Alex can play short and that Trevor Story is going to be healthy. Maybe that's the belief, but Devers ain't moving to first base, so there's the pieces fit as long as you're willing to move him to second, right?
Why don't you believe that Devers fits at first base?
I didn't say I didn't believe that. I don't think he said he's not moving. He said I ain't going. So I mean, you can try that, but I think he's a better player there. But in New York, Alex can play third and Chisholm goes to second. And they're best that way. Both those guys are better that way anyway, right? So, we'll see. We'll see where that plays out. But I'm with you. I think Boston's an excellent fit for him. I think Houston is an excellent fit for him, but I think it's going to be a struggle here with the other decisions that are looming. Which, by the way, if anybody was paying attention, Dana was trying to say as clear as he could without saying it. My owner's going to make the decision on guys like that. It's not me making the decision. I'm going to give my recommendation. I'm going to do it, but the owner has to give us the money to do it. And if Jim don't want to do it, he ain't going to. So all you have to do is look at that and go, let me go back to the track record and let me see how many 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. Oh, zero. And so if you end up with zero and you've got Tucker and Soto who are comparable by the all powerful WAR stat, you think Tucker's staying here? Why are we keeping him for a draft pick? He's out. The Yankees or the Red Sox? Probably not the Dodgers. Probably not the Padres. Nationals. Somewhere. He's out. And so we might as well go ahead and do that now. And Dan also said there's a premium on starting pitching. You got to go, might have 12 starting pitchers by May. Something, Jason, we talked about all the time. You got to have depth in starting pitching, 10, 11 guys that can do it because real fast, you end up with five and you be fighting. Got to have some depth pieces. Dana said that too. Certain baseball analysts might have thrown that question at him to get that answer. But point is that, Dana did say it. Well, if there's that type of premium, what do you think Valdez brings back? He ain't signing here either. He's not doing it. He's going to go out in the market and get, 7, 8 years like Freed just did. Maybe not that money, but 185 million at 7 years, 180 million at 7. You think Jim Crane's going to pay that? He will not. He will not, at least as of today. So, there's a lot more decisions to be made, and this has been coming for a while for this club, and for the winter meetings for the Astros. Bregman's the first domino, but man, it affects a lot after that.
Tucker obviously having one more year remaining. And I know Zach Tawatari, my colleague, asked you this at the winter meetings. Realistically, what kind of haul can the Astros get for Kyle Tucker? I mean, the Padres did pretty well with Soto, given that Soto was going to be a free agent. So I know they're not the exact same player. I know the numbers aren't the same. I know that Soto and Tucker, while not exact, I do believe that Kyle Tucker can reside in the same neighborhood as Juan Soto. Maybe not the same street, but I'm pretty sure they can reside in the same neighborhood. So what realistically is it two regulars and two top prospects for a Kyle Tucker? Is that realistic?
I think that's reasonable. I think it's about who's going to sign him, where he's going to go, who are you trading him to is going to have to believe they can sign him after the fact, right? The Cubs are out there a little bit as far as what that could mean.
And that
Um,
complicates matters, doesn't it?
yeah, it
Or
does.
does it?
Well, it does because if I'm the Seattle Mariners, is a bad example, terrible example is why I'm picking. If I'm the Seattle Mariners and I'm giving you I know I'm not signing Kyle Tucker, but I want him for this year. You're getting a couple of guys out of the system and maybe a 4A piece, and that's it. You're not getting anything that I can't replace because I'm not getting Tucker back. I'm just not doing it, right? If I am the Washington Nationals, that's a little different. Maybe I'm giving you three or four prospects and one guy off the roster, and letting you figure it out because I know I'm getting Kyle Tucker back to play right field, right? Um, because Tucker would probably sign in DC. They have the money. They've done it before. Philly's an option as well. As far as what that could look like later. So, um, all of that to tell you that the teams who trades for Kyle Tucker is going to have to believe in it. That'll dictate the return. Um, with that said, Dana's got to move the guy. I don't know how else to tell you. I mean, everybody's going to hate. He's got to move the guy. If your owner is not going to re-sign him, he's got to move him. If your owner is going to re-sign him, it should have been done by now. Okay, and it's whether it's done by now or done before spring training, it's all the same window. But if your owner's going to resign him, and is the owner going to go ahead and do it? And Dana's got 45 million bucks, man, of dead money. No one wants to talk about it. He's got 45 million dollars of dead money on the books. He's got Montero's 11 and a half ish, right? Abreu's 20. And then McCullers, as long as he's not pitching, guys, whether you want to hear this or not, I know he's a fan favorite. It's dead money. It's dead money. So he's got all this money he can't do anything with, and that complicates the ability to go out and get more free agents, right? So understand that those type of moves can handicap people long term, and if you have to plug holes and the team's not competitive, Tucker and Bregman got a chance to go win. They're young enough to go make that money and go win. They're going to do it.
Do you remember how many players Juan Soto, the haul for Juan Soto from the Padres to the Yankees? Remember how many players were in the deal total and how many came back to San Diego?
I thought there
I
was
have, I have the
five.
answer right here.
I thought there was five.
7 players total,
Okay, so who went? So
and
five plus Soto.
5 came back to the
All right,
Padres.
so I had the number right.
Higashioka,
Yeah.
pitching prospect Drew Thorpe, and right-handers Michael King, who I think's a keeper, Johnny Brito, Randy Vasquez. And the Yankees also received Trent Grisham.
Trent Grisham to the Yankees, Ishioka to the Padres,
And
Soto to the Yankees,
yeah,
and then everybody else is a prospect.
basically.
Yeah, so you get one and a half guys out of the system. You get a catcher in the big leagues that help you win, you send a fifth outfielder away, and the everyday guy who just got 760 million. Okay, yeah. So
I think that's probably what, maybe not that many, but I think that that's what the Astros can expect to get back
I think it's
this year.
reasonable. Yeah, I agree.
You mentioned Rafael Montero, and I wasn't going to go there, and you called it dead money. Is there any chance, knowing that relievers are volatile, that Montero could come back and be a useful piece?
The year Montero had here that he was very, very good was an outlier. Um, it was just an outlier. He wasn't very good in Seattle. He was just okay other places. Look, every time I say that, I bite my lip because they're big leaguers and they're very, very talented just to be there. But I'll say it again. We're talking about in the big leagues, there's another separation and lens, and that's what fans really see. That contract I never understood. I mean, I kind of got the Abreu one, maybe not the third year. Should have been two and an option, but I never understood Montero. So yes, there's always a chance, but man, is it narrow? It really depends what happens, um, in the organization, right? As far as the changes in their developmental philosophy are. And I will say this: I'm comfortable knowing that some of the questions that I had about usage and longevity and stretch and mechanics and getting out of sync. We talked about Javier a little bit. I even mentioned it in that session, and then I'll say this because I'm not going to hide it. There's a faction out there that believes that um, Dana and I have no relationship. Let me be very clear. I've known the guy 20 years. I know him well, and we talk baseball from a scouting perspective. We talk baseball from a baseball perspective. You don't spend 20 years in a fraternity with somebody and all of a sudden act like you don't know anybody. You don't know the guy. I just know what not to ask him. I know what he can't tell me, and I know where I'm not going to go. But I also know the moves he's making and what he's thinking, because a lot of us share the same brain up here. You know who else did that? James Click was like that too, whether you want to hear it or not. Mike Elias is like they scared to death. Mike Elias is scared to death of pitching, but Mike Elias was like that too. Scouts think a certain way. Even Chris Gross, who I am not a fan of as an evaluator, has a scout's mind. And he thinks that way. You think that way. You have different methods that get there, but you understand it. And so when you look at a guy like Christian Javier, who was out of sync and off cross his body and didn't believe in his stuff, right away you could see all that. The Astros are addressing that stuff. And so maybe with Montero, maybe, but it was a contract I didn't necessarily understand. I think he's probably your 18th guy on a staff of 17, or 17 viable options in the big leagues. He's your 18th guy, so we'll see what happens. But I don't have a whole lot of hopes.
I do recall us saying that we thought that that was the way the market was going to go with Montero. So while we didn't understand it, we kind of understood it because maybe that's where the market was headed. And maybe at that time, not to say it was going to be a great deal, but the money would make more sense because of some of the possible deals down the line. I think that that's what we were thinking. But it's interesting this year, Montero 4.70 ERA in 41 games. His career ERA is 4.71. So, yes, he was very much the guy who he's been throughout his entire career. And again, other than one season in 2019 when he was in 22 games, he had a 2.48 ERA. That 2022 season was the best Montero's ever been, best he's ever been.
Yeah, without question. And so, he turned into a good payday, good for him, but it's still dead money for Dana, and it hampers what he can do.
All right. We always talk about, hey, we'll send us your responses and comments and questions and concerns. And this popped up while I was gone. And while you were thinking about the winter meetings, and I don't know, I mean, this was on a post on X, Twitter, from November 9th, 2023. I posted Dusty Baker mentioned bloggers and tweeters as one of the reasons for retiring. Jeremy Booth says rest of the league is watching and that quote group, meaning bloggers and tweeters, may hurt the Astros' ability to hire good baseball people. So then out of the blue, and again, that's from more than a year ago, I get this mention the other day, and it's from the real Dan DeMan at the real Dan DeMan. No, Dan DeMan the real and whatever. Time to revisit a clown tweet from a clown at Jeremy Booth when he was dead wrong about Espada. And then, and I don't know which one of these came first. I think this one came first. And he was wrong about Espada not coming back. Oh, I know what this was about now. I know what this was about. This was a quote from that Alex guy who said Booth always seems so salty. And then on December 3rd, quote, and he was wrong about Espada not coming back to the Astros. Espada stood up to all those bloggers and radio hosts. Ha, ha, ha. First of all, Joe Espada's first season as the Astros manager, if anyone out there believes that people were lauding him for the way he managed this team, I got a bridge to sell you in the middle of Juneau. Now, let me tell you this. I'm not saying Joe Espada did a bad job. Not saying that at all. But there were some serious questions throughout this season. And why that even falls into what we were talking about, I don't even know. Like, how does that even What is going on here? I don't
So,
understand how those 2 and 2 go together. Those
but
pumps
what
and
you've
your
got,
original comment.
what you've got is I don't remember any of that stuff. What I said is that and Espada was already here, by the way. So that's a dumb comment. He was already
Yeah.
part of the Astros, and he's part of a lot of the Astros for a lot of years. He was Dana's guy that Dana wanted to have. So whoever said that, start paying attention to things that go on besides what's happening in your own brain. Second of all, while we're here, okay, um, Joe's biggest issue all year was how the lineup was balanced out and managed. Run production, the numbers showed up. Lineup construction, that was the issue, and it caught up to them with losses, and it caught up to them in playoff position. And the pitching injuries, he can't technically do anything about. I believe there's other factors when it comes to that, but the lineup was something he could have done something different with, and Dana could too. And Dana and I talked about that briefly. Again, I'm just going to tell you that I gave him my thoughts. I'm not going to share what he said back. It's his team, his decision. That's what they're going to do. But I am going to tell you that if you wrote that and you were sober, I got concerns. That is a ridiculous commentary about Joe Espada and what I said, because Joe Espada was already here. I said people outside the organization. I said people were watching, that you're getting lit up if you did something that anything that went wrong. All of a sudden, you don't worry about people knocking on your door or going to attack you on Instagram. Look out with Martin Maldonado. You guys ought to be embarrassed, and you're supposed to be embarrassed, right? You've handled yourselves in different situations. And as far as being salty, let me see. I've thought about you guys exactly 0 times since November 9th, 2023. I don't really care what you have to say. You're entitled to your opinion. We're talking about what's going on factually, and I didn't even see it. Jason, I didn't see it, didn't pay attention to it, didn't notice it, won't go back and look to it, won't comment on it. I will be going to, when we are done, I'm going to do whatever I usually do on a Wednesday evening. I'm going to take care of some additional work that I've got to take care of for things in my present and my future. And I'm going to call it a night. And I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to sleep well. And I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to take the dogs for a walk. Nice 8 miles. Going to get my workout in. Going to get my butt to the airport and holler at you a little bit. Do some stuff on the phone. Going to go ahead and bang out some reports. Figure out what's on next. Go see my pops.
All
And you
right.
know what else? You know what I won't do? Think about that guy. That's what I won't do.
I don't know. It
Okay.
was just so bizarre, and I didn't reply to it because I wanted to say, what does Joe Espada have to do with any of this? But I did want to bring it up in this forum because I wanted to see how you reacted. I'm trolling you.
Yeah. Yes. I'm so bothered. I know.
I
Thank
know.
you.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for another Extra Bases. Next week, yeah, we'll do it next week.
Yep.
Until then, I'm Jason. He's Jeremy. Thanks for watching. And again, we appreciate all the comments. Well, we appreciate most of the comments.
Most of the comments. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Till next time. See you.